So welcome everyone. In this co-working session and live stream, we are going to be talking about the new library that was promoted at Google I/O, which is related to navigation, in particular Navigation3, which is fully based on Compose. And in this live stream, I would like to explore it a little bit, or at least what's the development currently. It is still in alpha, meaning there will be lots of API changes, lots of things that are missing. But it would be nice to at least have a little understanding what to expect and how we can plan our migrations as the time goes by. And we would look into an example of how we could migrate an application that has different navigation if the time allows us to. So here I am sharing currently a screen of an application that I just set up. It's just a new project that I have set up. It's still not published on GitHub. I'm going to publish it after the stream. But basically just regular application. And I haven't included anything, if we take a look, from the new navigation. So just additionally on top of what what Android Studio by default is injecting is the Kotlin serialization and the plugin, and that's it. Everything else is like just the latest versions of the things. Now, if I run this application, let's take a look. What we've got just hello Android, so pretty much nothing. And yeah, it would be super exciting to see how we can introduce the navigation to begin with. So starting simple, then building on top and explore different things. All right. For a little bit more context, there are people inside the call because this is mainly a call inside the Android devs community that I'm running. And there are some people on the calls. For those people, just unmute yourself and ask if there is any questions or any uncertainty during the what we are going to be doing here. And for the people on YouTube, if you want, you can also join the community to be able to also join these calls, but that's not essential. You can also ask the questions in the stream, and I am going to look into these questions from time to time and see or try to answer. Now, the first thing that I would like to introduce here in the project is the dependency. So we need to introduce the dependency for the navigation. And I'm gonna start off. I hope, is the screen visible? Like, is the code visible? Hopefully it is visible enough. So here I'm going to define Android X navigation. So there are two core dependencies that we need to introduce. The first one is the runtime, and the second one is the UI. So I'm gonna name this Navigation3 runtime, and one more Navigation3 UI. Now both of these are modules that are, well, module that are based on Android X, and as you can see, even the autocomplete works here. It's Android X Navigation 3. So the first one and the second one I need. So UI, and for the first one I need runtime, and for both of them I need version reference. Is gonna be my oh, thank you for the people that are confirming that on YouTube. It says it's stuck on main activity. Okay. Probably there is a little bit of delay, maybe. Alex, let's see if there will be. Probably there is a delay. I don't know how to fix that. Okay. Close. Let me see. Um, yep. It says the connection is good, but for some reason it is stuck. trying to fix. Let me see my streaming software. What does it say here? Oh yeah. External display. Yeah, that's because of the streaming was not selected. Maybe, yeah, it should fix now, I guess. Okay, cool. Yeah, I can see now in the stream, I am seeing myself, but hopefully the sound is also working. If somebody could confirm, it would be great for YouTube. Okay, then let's proceed. So here,
Can you
sorry,
can you try to type something, because
yeah, I think now
when
I'm gonna start defining the version. So here I will say Navigation 3 version. So I don't have this, I have to define it. So let's go ahead and define it. Navigation 3 version. And that one should be, I have some notes here, so bear with me. Should be 100 alpha 02. I'm gonna sync. Cool. And now that the sync is done, what I'm gonna do also here, I'm gonna create a bundle navigation so that I can provide it all at once. I am not going to, pull all of these. So I'm gonna say here Navigation 3 runtime and Navigation 3 UI. Sync again so that I can start using this. Thanks for the confirmation for the people on YouTube. Thank you. Now I've got the navigation and I'm gonna go ahead and include it here. Now let's organize this file a little bit, the dependencies. So I'll pull the platform on top, then I have some implementations, then I have a test implementation. I got these two, I want them here. And oops, this one should go here. Then I'm gonna add one more implementation from the libs, bundles, navigation. And then I can use navigation artifact inside my code. Cool. So far, so good, I guess. And now we can start working on this thing here. Now, I have an activity, I have set content navigation theme and scaffold. So I'm just gonna remove all of these. And from here, I'm going to call a composable where I'm gonna be hosting my navigation. Basically, everything around my navigation, it will be there. Let's call this app navigator. That's gonna be, I'm gonna do that manually. By the way, guys, a cool tip, is that if you are using live templates in Android Studio, there is one that creates a composable function for you. Just type comp and then enter. It's going to generate basically some stuff for you. And then here you can just type the name. So app navigator is what I want. Modifier, I don't really need one. Just stick to simplicity for the sake of this exercise. Now inside here, I want to set up my navigation. Now, the first thing that they have introduced, and by the way, once again, this is still in alpha. Don't try this at home or like in production, I mean. But the idea behind the stream is to figure out, like to explore a little bit the library and to see what we can expect as the time goes by. What are the limitations? What are the possibilities? And yeah, it is encouraged for you to try and find bugs, report them, and like see how the API works for you. But if there is something like, yeah, this is still not production ready, as we are gonna see. So here we have to define the backstack. So one of the biggest promises behind this library is that you are the owner of the backstack compared to the version so far where the backstack was sort of behind the scene. It was managed for you. Now you are the owner of it. You define it. You can define it any way you want, and then you can play with it any way you want as well. Now we have to define it here. So I can name this backstack. And then the backstack can be literally like a list. So if you are literally willing to use something like very custom, very you own, like something that you own yourself, and if you are really willing to go with such a low level primitive like a list, I would suggest you using linked list for this, because the linked list has constant time for adding and removing at the end. So so that it's gonna be very fast basically when you're adding or removing screens, as we are gonna see how this works. So for now, I'm gonna just remember a mutable state list of, and then this one can be literally any, and that would be my backstack. So my backstack will be anything. So here I have to set what's going to be my first route. So my first route, like what's going to be the start screen. So I can say, for example, list here, or home, maybe it's going to be more convenient. And then what's home? Home could be, let's say, data object. Pay attention here, I'm not marking this with serializable. I can work with this pretty much this way. And now, how do we create the navigation itself? It's just by defining nav display, and that's a function, composable function, and it takes some arguments here, and it takes quite a few arguments. We are not gonna make it to go through all of them today, and probably the API will change over time. So like let's stick to the minimum stuff. So here we have to pass the backstack. And if you take a look, the backstack here is list of any. So like if you go to the implementation, it is literally list of any. Then once we have the backstack, we can say on back, what's going to happen on back. So they just give you a callback. And then what you can do is you have to remove the last item that was added on the stack. So you can say backstack remove last or null, for example. And then here we have to say what's going to be our entry provider. So this is a lambda where we can define, it gives us back a key. And then based on this key, we can provide the screens of the, like what are the screens of the navigation. So here you can say when the key is home, then everything basically here, entry provider, if you take a look, it should be nav entry. So like we are defining the destinations. Our destinations are essentially nav entries. And in that sense here, for the home key, I have to define nav entry. And by the way, bear with me, this is very primitive way of doing the entry provider. There is more sufficient or more superior way or better way by using DSL. But this, like, I just wanted to go over the basics so that we can see what are the possibilities. And then here I have to say nav entry for, like, I have to pass an object here. I can pass any, and I'll pass my home, right? Or actually the key. But for this nav entry for this key, which is home, I want to render something. Let's say my list screen. So that's gonna be a composable that I'll create here. Um, let's call this list screen. This one might take a modifier. And then I can say, for example, I can add one more screen. And then we can call that screen details. Then it will be nav entry, again, key. And let's define details as well. It can be data class 2. And then it can take some stuff here. So for example, ID string, which is gonna be val. And then here we would do when it's details, it gives us well, we can just open another screen. So here we can say details screen. And because we have the key here, we can say we can pass down the key ID, which is this one. Detail screen is nowhere to be found. That's why this is complaining. Let's create this details screen, and it will take item ID, which is gonna be string. And why this is not compiling? Because we are missing an else. We have to do nav entry, and we can basically use unit here. And that one would be, I mean, we can throw an exception, we can leave it empty. Leaving it empty is not nice, probably, because it's gonna show basically blank screen or something. I don't know. Or we can just make an error screen here if we want to. Let's throw an exception for now. Yeah, argument exception, unknown screen. Cool. So pretty much that's it for now. And then let's create some stuff here. Let's create a, I don't know, column. And I'm gonna pass this modifier. And inside this column, I'm gonna add a button. Let's actually make this vertical arrangement center, horizontal alignment center, so that so it's gonna be in the middle, this button. On click, I'm going to call on navigate to details. And then here I would say text, and the text gonna be go to details. I'll expose this as lambda here on navigate to details. And what happens here now is that on navigate to details, I have to do something. Now, the way to navigate basically is just adding something in the backstack. So I can say backstack add detail screen, and then I can pass here, let's say, the item ID. So details, yeah, detail, just details, like that. So that's why, because as you can see, we are removing and adding items to the backstack. That's why I was saying the list implementation can be linked list. So if you are making custom navigator, for example. Okay. So far so good. Let's run. Well, I'm also going to, let's make this a bit more distinguishable. So I'm gonna say modifier fill max size, and then I'm gonna add a background. I don't know. Let's do color red or color green. Import graphics color green, and then the same for this one, but this one will be red so that we can distinguish between the screens. And then this one is also gonna be like that, and instead of button I'm only going to have text here, details for dollar item ID. Let's run this and see what we've got. Guys, if there are any questions or something, you can drop them in the chat. Next up, what we would like to see is how we can make this easier or better. The entry provider, there is different API that we can use. And I wanted to show some cool stuff about the view models. Okay, now here we have the list. Go to details. When I go to details, it goes to details. And going back, just goes back. Yeah. Now, another stuff is that we can also change the transitions. So here we can say, yeah, there are a bunch of things, and probably it would be great to explore them all, but probably in some of the next streams, because otherwise we wouldn't have enough time. Yeah, so there was an API here that we can leverage for changing the transitions, and I think it was transition spec. So this is like for entering the screen, and then pop spec also. So yeah, here we can define some animations if we want. Let me maybe copy paste some animations that are already predefined. So we are gonna slide in horizontally, and we are gonna change the duration to 300 milliseconds. And on top of that, we are gonna fade in. That's gonna be the sliding horizontally is for the animation that's gonna happen when the new screen is being opened, but together with is like how the screen that we are seeing, how that's gonna go away. That slide out horizontally, like we can change that also to maybe scale out. Target scale is gonna be, let's say, 0.9f plus fade out. Come on, import, nice. And then how we are going to open, like when we go back, how we are going to do that. So go back will be, let's say, so let's use what we have here. Slide, come on, I'm just trying to import. Yeah. And so it's gonna slide in horizontally and slide out the other screen. Okay. So we can change these transitions nicely. Okay, those are those two APIs. Now I wanted to explore the entry provider. There is like, instead of this sort of this way of defining the nav entries, we could make our destinations, we could make them nav entries basically. And that would be something that would be cool to see how we can do. And basically, we have to mark them now them as serializable. In fact, let's try not marking them serializable and see what we are going to end up with. But this is going to be a nav key. And then this one is also going to be a nav key. And now that these two are nav keys, what I'm gonna have in the entry provider is I can use the DSL. So I can say equals entry provider. And now this one is giving me back, well, I think I also have to change the navback stack. So I'll say remember navback stack, and it's gonna ask me what's gonna be the, I can pass here the start destination. It's gonna be home in this case. So I remember the navback stack with a home destination, and then here I don't need to work with the key, and I don't need the when, and I don't need this if else or whatever when statement here. I could, well, I will need the screen, so let me maybe just comment out for now. And then here I can define this as entries. So there is this entry function that I can use. And here I have to define on the entry what sort of destination it is. So here it will be home. Here it gives me back my key. And then this key being the type home. So if we explore, home is going to be the key. I don't need it for the home. And for the home, I just need this thingy. So the actual screen content. And then again, I am adding to the, everything else remains the same. And then I want to define one more entry for the details. Here, I do need the key so I can read the ID of it. And then I will take this, paste it here. And yeah, I can take from this key the ID that is basically my value in the data class. So far, so I think this one is much better, much cleaner, I would say. It's formatted. And it does remind of the navigation that we know so far, where we have the nav host, and inside the nav host, we are defining the composables, the destination. So this is pretty similar to that. And yeah, let's run now and see how this is going to change. I don't think it's going to change anything. The functionality will be still there, except there is a crash. And let's take a look why. The crash says probably that we are not serializable. And yeah, that's exactly what we expected. So what we need to do is make these two, mark them as serializable. And then I'm going to run, and it should work. Cool. All right. Now, another thing that I wanted to show you is that with this navigation library, they made it easy to, for example, if you want to, let's say if you introduce a view model, and then you have this view model between destinations, like if you are injecting the same view model between destinations, it is going to remember that view model, and it will be sort of shared between the destinations. And that's the default behavior. But if you want to, let's say, bind or limit the view model only per destination, so like if you want the scope of the view model to be or to survive only per destination, then you can also easily do that. And I don't know whether we should go that route first, or maybe see how we can migrate existing navigation to this. Let's maybe look into the view models first. So what I'm gonna do here is I will, because there is a bunch of other things that I want to share about the view model. In particular, if you remember with the previous navigation, we can pass arguments to a destination, and then the view model that is bind to that destination directly gets these arguments into the safe state handle, and then in the view model we can directly use them. Here, either it is not yet implemented, or I wasn't able to figure it out, or it is going to be implemented at some point, or maybe it's just the whole paradigm is going to change. But by default, it wasn't working. So let me actually walk you through that as well. Now, Now let's say here I am going to have a view model. Let's call it details view model. And yeah, this computer on this side is locking all the time, and I'm just unlocking it so I can follow the chat. And let's make this a view model. And then here, what I'm gonna do is let's keep some sort of state here. So something simple would be maybe a count is going to be yeah, I think it's gonna be in state. Usually we don't remember in the view model things like with mutable in state or whatever. Probably we are going to use some more sophisticated way, but for now I'm just trying to come up with something very simple that we can remember across. So then this is going to be the click count. Then I'm going to expose a function increment, and then this one's going to be count plus plus, something like that. And then what I will do is in this one here, I'm going to inject the view model. Um, okay, I couldn't do that, but let me maybe pass it down. And then here I would say so probably I have to I'm missing the lifecycle dependency. So let's add that in the TOML. So what I'm gonna add is there is another dependency that works with the view models with Navigation3, and I'm gonna add that one. And that one also contains the functionality that I spoke about, that I mentioned, where that helps us to bind the view model of the life cycle of the view model of the view model per composable, right? So that one is let's say Android X Navigation3 view model, or without that, doesn't matter. Then it's gonna be a module Android X navigation view model Navigation3. That's the one that I'm looking for, and the version for this one is 100 alpha 01, if I'm not mistaken. Because there is multiple versions, but they are mixed with the regular lifecycle thingy. And then I'm gonna include this one, Android X here, sync. So automatically, because I've been using bundles, I don't have to change anything else anywhere. It's just gonna work. And then here, this one should work. Yeah. So it's a composable function that I can use. And here I would say view model equals view model. Okay. Now let's run. Let's see the default, how it is going to work. And then let's see what changes we can do on the navigation when it comes to working with view models. It will take some time. And especially I want to explore or at least show you the current situation with with passing the stuff. So like we have the same functionality, there is nothing that changes, but let's say in the details, for example, I'm going to have a button as well that's gonna say on click view model increment, and then it will say click me, and then it will be text here on it's gonna be view model count, and I'll say that's gonna be a, because it's integer, I have to convert it to string, something like current. Yeah, let's run this. So if I click, it increases the count. If I go back and go to details, the count remains the same, meaning that this view model was sort of remembered by default, even though I'm doing it this way. And even if I move it here, and if I say view model directly and remove it from here, from here and from here, the behavior is going to be the same, meaning that this view model was remembered across the whole, basically bound to the activity, we can safely say. Now, how do I bound it to the composable where it is being used? Well, here we can also define additional things, and those are entry decorators. And it's going to be a list of decorators, and here we can define some decorators. We can create custom ones, but there are some that are predefined from the API itself, and we can use them. So there is this remember view model store nav entry decorator. I think this one does the trick. And then there are, on top of that, we can use additional ones about storing and restoring state. If you, for example, want to store and restore from process death, meaning that if these are serializable, it can figure it out by itself, if I understood the documentation well. Of course, this might change over time, and we have to keep an eye on that. But at least for now, they are there. So there is remember scene setup entry nav decorator, and also remember safe state, something like that. Yeah. Now let's run this. Go to details, click me, go back. Probably now the view model should have been cleaned. And if I go back, yeah, as we can see, it is cleaned, allowing us to basically bind the view model to the life cycle of the composable where it is being used. That's cool. Now, what I wanted to mention additionally, something that I particularly didn't find it implemented, maybe they're going to implement it in the future, or I don't know how it is going to be. As you have noticed here, when I have this entry, I have in the key the argument, and I'm passing it down to the I'm passing it down here. That's legit, that's fine. But what if I want to basically pass that directly to the view model? With the previous navigation, it was possible. So there is a question, let me see. These entry decorators affect the entire nav display. Do you know if there is a way to dictate which screens we want to be affected? Well, yeah, basically you can nest these nav display. So like nav display is in this composable, but I don't think we are limited to, for example, creating another nav display here with its own backstack. And effectively, we are making a subgraph that way. Yeah, hopefully that explains, or at least that's what I would expect. And from the documentation, the examples that I saw so far, I also thought about the same, but I didn't figure out anything related to that. So I just assumed that basically I can just create here new nav display with its own backstack, and it should be fine. If that answers the question. But back to the topic, I was talking about, for example, passing arguments through the save state handle. So this view model we can safely add here save state handle, and the call to view model here will figure it out. It can create still the view model, and for example, if you're using DI library like coin, this function will be coin view model. If you're using hill, this function will be hill view model. And I assume that the implementation of them will change at some point so that they will need to add that support. Um, yeah, I'm also, to answer to Alex, I'm also going to explore this further that way so that I can know more. And then in the next streams, we are also going to do that. Like explain how everything's going to be with subgraphs and so on and so forth, if that makes sense. And also, if you want, or if you come up with something, we can invite you into one of these streams so that you can share what you have learned, of course, if that's something that you want to do. Okay, now with the previous navigation, as I said, we can whatever we pass can be taken here. So, for example, here I am passing item ID. The details has item, it has ID. And by default in the previous navigation, what I could have done is here I can say, where was my view model? Sorry. Yeah, here in the view model, I could say, for example, private val args is gonna be save state handle, or yeah, handle get, in this case gonna be string ID. So, and then I can use here inside any of these functions, I can use this argument. However, now with this, it is probably still not done. I hope they're gonna do that because this is something I really like, and I'm not big fan of passing the arguments down my composables. Like, why would my composable know about the ID? I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's fine. Like, this way we can pass any data. However, I find it more convenient because like this screen then will have to pass that ID to the view model if I want to load something based on this ID. And if I have that in the view model itself, I can directly load having that ID. So I really hope that probably at some point this view model function will be implemented in a way that it will pass the data that is being passed through the navigation into the save state handle. And the same would be for this, as I said, the DI libraries Hilt or Coin. Hopefully they are going to implement that because, as I said, this is still in alpha. I assume the development is still not there. Okay, that's something that I realized wasn't working and I wanted to share with you. So for now, the only way to pass the data would be to pass it in a composable like that. Okay, but yeah, injecting the view model works. So like, as we saw, everything is there. Cool. Okay, now that's gonna be more or less the basics that I wanted to share for this stream, and about implementing the navigation 3 on a new project. I want to also show you how would I migrate an existing project if the API doesn't change that much. So how I would approach that. And then also I want to mention at the end of the stream something that we are not going to touch in this stream, but I'm planning to work on, and then I'm going to reveal a little bit later. So yeah, for now, let's commit this. What does it say? Okay, this should be first probably because it's the first optional. Cool. And I'm going to remove this because it's not going to work anyway. And yeah, so this is the state, the current state. Let me commit, and then I can push this so you can find it on my GitHub. And I'll share that in the description of the stream. I will share this repository, and also inside the community, I'm gonna make a post where I'm gonna share this. It's not published, but I'm gonna publish it. So there was something here. No, in the build Gradle. Yeah, cool. So introduce view model and yeah, just view model, and then yeah, I'll push this. Now going to another repository. This is the Rijksmuseum. I'm also going to share it in the description and also the post. This is an application that we already have inside our community that we are using for learning purposes. I'm going to terminate this. Let me pull that in. It's this one. So basically, I am going to run this so that we can see what we have and what is the navigation that we have now so that we can migrate. And I think we're going to have just enough time to do the migration. And yeah, we'll see how that's going to go. All right, so basically we have a list here with some artworks. And if I click, it goes to the details of the artwork and it fetches that one. Now, the navigation that we have in this application is pretty straightforward or simple. We have artworks, which is the list, and we have a navigation file that defines it. And then we have our details that has its own navigation file that defines how we're going to navigate there. So we already have these serializable types. We just have to make them public, probably, or we don't have to actually. And then we have here the uproot where we have the main navigation setup. And this is what I was mentioning before. The nav display is similar to the nav host that we had before. And that entry provider is basically what we are having here. Now, let's actually try to migrate this. What I would start off with is, of course, change the dependencies. So first I am going to, let me copy paste the dependencies maybe from the previous project. And I'm gonna do that together with the bundle. Take this. This is my version catalog. I already have a navigation here, so I'm going to remove this one. And I already have bundles, I think, so I'm just going to move this in the bundles section. Like that. And yeah, I think the version I should update, put this version here somewhere. So navigation, I think there was here somewhere navigation. Yeah. So let's rename this to Navigation3, and it would be 100 alpha 02. Think. Versions, libraries, what's wrong? In version catalog libs, a bundle with name compose declares dependency. Oh, compose declares depend. Yeah, this one. Try again. That should work. And now I have to inject here the implementation. So I would say implementation libs bundles navigation, think again, and then I can start migrating. Cool. Now I'm gonna start from the uproot. I no longer have these navigation, so I did a little bit of a step further, like too much of a step to remove the previous navigation, but that's fine. And let's see. So instead of this, I'm going to say nav back or just backstack is gonna be, remember, nav backstack, and this is gonna be my, what was the start destination before? It's gonna be the same, artwork destination. Cool. And artwork destination has to be a nav entry or nav key, sorry, so that it's gonna work. Now that it's nav key, here I no longer have the previous implementation of the navigation. I have to change some stuff here. Now instead of nav graph builder, if you take a look here on the this is the previous project entry provider, it has this entry provider builder, which is a type of any. So back to this project, what I'm gonna change is here I'm going to use the nav pro, yeah, entry or entry provider builder. That's gonna be any. And here it will be my, instead of composable, it will be entry. And it's just gonna work. It will be that simple. Now that's cool. Just do a little bit of formatting. And now back here, I have to use nav display, where I'm gonna pass the backstack to the nav display. And then I have to provide entry provider. And I'm gonna tell what's gonna happen when I click back. So on back, the backstack will remove last or null. And then basically I can comment out the rest here, only pull things inside. Now entry provider, and because I have this extension function that I've created here, artwork screen, I can directly see here artwork screen. Artworks screen. And then on, why this is not working? Let's see. Yeah, maybe it's Android Studio issue with the. I assume it is an Android Studio issue with the compilation, but yeah, let's figure it out. And then I'm also going to define the details, of course. But here, before I do that, here I say nav controller navigate to artwork details. Okay, so it's gonna be a function that we can also do in the details navigation. So here I'm gonna remove this. Then this will be entry provider builder. Oh yeah, I think here instead of any, it should be nav entry, I guess, or nav key. Yeah. And then this is gonna be an entry. And then here to navigate, this is gonna be an extension function, my backstack, nav backstack. This is the type, navigate to artwork details. And then here I just have to say add destination. The destination I couldn't add because this one also has to be a nav key, and then everything's gonna work. I can remove this. So far so good. So basically I changed this extension function from nav controller to nav backstack. The name remains the same, and I had to mark this one as nav key and change the extension of the nav graph builder to entry provider builder by providing this actually as type. And then here, or here I also have to change this to nav key. Come on, why this is not working? I don't understand. Anyway, so here it will be artwork details screen. On, I have to provide, what was that? On navigate back is going to be backstack remove last or now. And basically that would be it. Except, yeah, this completion error. And here I can say backstack navigate to artwork details. And here I have the key. I can just pass it down. So on navigate to, yeah, it's object number. But probably because of this compilation error, it is not willing to work. And yeah, nav key. And they are imported. So let's actually run. Maybe it's a glitch on Android Studio. Although it should work. Okay, let's see how we go. There is no other questions in the stream. Okay, that's fine. Any other questions or potential questions in the call, guys? For everybody in the call? So I don't know why this artwork screen. Yeah, I'm not sure why it is not willing to see this. And if I stick to any here, is this gonna work? This is really, really, really interesting. Yeah, Anthony, shoot. I can make this one like that.
Okay,
That's
so
not gonna work.
it's not a question per se from me, but I was wondering if you could use Android Studio, create function, that functionality or that option is giving you.
Oh yeah.
Let's see if it tells us the exact receiver of the artwork screen.
Yeah, we can do that. So create function. But yeah. Oh, wait. Now I see what's the problem. So entry provider is gonna be entry provider. I have to actually call the entry provider DSL here. Okay, my bad. Sorry about that. As we saw in the other project here, we are using entry provider. And then we can actually put entries. And since my artwork screen is an entry, and my artwork detail screen is an entry, effectively I can put here entries if I use entry provider. And that should actually make it work. There is one error now, because previously the navigation was passing something that we spoke before, the previous navigation was passing this object number. If you take a look here, it is passing to the destination, and it was red in the view model. So if you take a look at the artwork details view model, here it is being read from the save state handle. It will no longer work. So if I open something, basically nothing is being passed there. So this is simply empty. And now the way that I would fix this is basically I no longer need all of this. I'll take the object number here. Then in the screen, I'll take in the view model, but also the object number. And then I'll pass it here. And then whoever calls this screen, which is my navigation, will have to provide that object number. How do we do that? Well, basically I have the key here, which is the artwork destination, and I can say object number is my key object number, and that should make it work. And yeah, of course, I don't have the save state handle any longer, so I have to change the coin. And let's take a look. Okay, it works pretty fine, as we can see. Now that was the migration. Sorry for the hiccup about this entry provider here, but basically this one, it just takes any generic, but any would do here. And also in the other, I think, no? Because this one takes T of any, so like passing any should work. I don't know why it doesn't. Oh yeah, I think it doesn't because, yeah, obviously. These ones entries they need to be nav keys, so pretty understandable. Cool. Anyway, that would be it. And what I wanted to say for some of the following streams, something that I mentioned before that I will reveal at the end, is that there is like one of the reasons why they introduced this navigation is to be able to support screens that are adaptive. So for example, if this was a foldable, if I open the fold, then I can have the list details or like on a tablet or a desktop. And this navigation is going to work with that pretty seamless, which means there are some dependencies that we can include to work with panes. So we have different panes like list pane or details pane, and then depending on the situation, it's going to have that navigation set up almost automatically for us. And that's something that we're going to explore and work on some of the next streams. And that is called adaptive. So basically there are some dependencies. If I go to the TOML, let's maybe first commit this. So here I would say feed Navigation3 migration, migrate to nav3, and then I'll push this branch. So because I'm gonna share the project, the repository in the description of the stream and also in the post that I will make later, you can find this branch and you can see. And back to the adaptive thing that I wanted to share, if I close everything and go to my TOML. Yeah, so here, there is this Android X. Yeah, Material 3 adaptive. So there is a bunch of dependencies that we can work with. And yeah, as I said, that's going to be something for another stream because we are running pretty much out of time for this one. If there are any questions in the call, please let me know. Or if there are any questions in a stream, also like you can drop them in the chat. And otherwise, we can close it for today. All right. Well, that's all I've got for introducing the new Navigation 3. That's as far as I have explored. Hopefully, they're gonna be changing the API. They're gonna be introducing new stuff, and as I will be finding new things, I'm gonna be sharing with the community. So yeah, and this is pretty exciting for me. Hopefully, we are gonna see much more in the future. That would be it for today. Thank you so much for the attention and the time, for the participation. And I would like to apology for that hiccup. Well, it's new API. I'm still not also um, super comfortable with it. So yeah, looking forward. I'm gonna catch you back in the community, all of you. Thanks. Thank you. All right. Have a nice evening, everyone. Cheers.